Today's tropical weather update is brought to you by State Insurance Company Limited. Live in a better state of mind.
And a pleasant good day. I am Letitia Humphreys, in with your tropical weather update for today, Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. Across the Atlantic, we see there is no tropical activity expected within the next 7 days, according to the National Hurricane Center. At this time, there are just some tropical waves that are moving across the area. However, none of them noting any significant development. There is a tropical wave that is just to the east of the Eastern Caribbean islands. No significant showers associated with this particular system. However, there are small patches that are expected to move across throughout the course of the day. But behind that tropical wave, we're looking for more drier conditions to settle in. Another tropical wave in the main development region, not really showing any significant development around it at this time. That dust that I just mentioned, you can see that big plume of Saharan dust moving across behind that tropical wave. You're already seeing the effects of that haze is increasing across the area if you go on and take a look on the outside. But that cloud patch that moved across mainly early this morning, you can see it right here associated with that tropical wave. We're just here in the box, Antigua and Barbuda, and we can see that cloud mass moving across, which gave us some showers this morning. Now on our radar, I'm just showing you how those showers progressed across. We see Antigua very early. We're just going to wait for the start of the loop again, where we're going to see, this is the beginning, we're going to see that heavy shower that moved across mainly early this morning, but most of the rest of the activity is confined towards the south of the islands. We're seeing clearer conditions that are moving in presently. Now that dust model is indicating that we expect to see those dusty conditions lingering around the area at least until Saturday. So persons with respiratory ailments, I do encourage you to take those necessary precautionary measures to mitigate against these impacts of the Saharan dust. Now, as we go into the hurricane season, or we go further into the hurricane season, we continue to give you some tips from time to time so that you can be prepared in the event that we should be impacted by any of these systems. So now there are some risks that are, or some hazards that are associated with tropical cyclones. First, we look at storm surge. Storm surge is basically the wind blowing across the ocean and pushing a lot of that water onshore. There are tornadoes that sometimes develop as well with these tropical cyclones, depending on the strength of the system. We also have impacts from rip currents. Even though the system is not close by, it could be near enough in the vicinity that it could send some swells into the coastlines as well as some rip currents. So in the event that there is any nearby system and you go on out to the coastlines, always be on the lookout for these rip currents as well as these harsh breaking waves. There are also damaging winds associated with tropical cyclones, and that mainly depends on the strength of the system. So the strength or the effects of the damaging winds will depend on the category, whether it developed into a tropical storm or it developed into a category 1 to 5 hurricane. There are also flooding rains that are associated with these tropical cyclones. You can have flooding associated with heavy rainfall, as well as even the storm surge pushing onshore. So these are some of the hazards associated with tropical cyclones. Now that we know our hazards, you want to know what is your risk. So the definition of risk is saying the probability and magnitude of harm possible to humans, their livelihoods, and assets because of exposure and vulnerability to a hazard. What exactly is a hazard? A hazard is something that can affect life, property, or the environment. We just pointed out those hazards: storm surge, we had flooding rains, damaging winds, rip currents, as well as tornadoes. So next you want to ask, what is exposure? So how exposed are you to these hazards? Do you live along the coastlines? Do you live in elevated areas? Do you live in low-lying areas? So low-lying areas are prone to flooding, whereas elevated areas are more affected by those damaging winds. And also, we want to know whether or not those damaging winds could impact you in a way where if your structure is not adequate to withstand the damages of these or the force of these damaging winds, you have to ask yourself, what is your vulnerability? So your vulnerability is whether or not your structure is sound, also whether or not you are an elderly person. If you're an elderly person, you'd want to ensure that you get yourself into shelters, etc., in the event that these tropical cyclones could come around. Also, your livelihood and property. Do you own farms? Do you own livestock? You have to ask yourself all of these questions ahead of any incoming tropical cyclone system. So again, you want to know what is going to be the impact on your livelihood, your assets, and your property. So as you go further into the hurricane season, please, we ask you to take these tips that we're giving you in mind and to put them in place in the event that something should come about. Of course, if you happen to capture anything of interest at this time on the outside, please send those videos or pictures to us at abmsiwatch@gmail.com, where we are able to take a look at them and even share them with others around the world. You can follow us on our social media platforms. We're available on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and X, or you can call our hotline or visit our website. And of course, continue to monitor with us and stay ready into the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. I'm Letitia Humphreys. Have a good day.
Today's tropical weather update has been brought to you by State Insurance Company Limited. Live in a better state of mind.